welcome back. On the horn this week, we have Mr. Dino Spumoni and Mr. Genevieve Bullock, or
At your service.
as they're known in the streets, Stefan and Stephen Bruh.
And I'm of course Stefan. I'm the one owning the PH.
And I'm Steven with the invisible V.
The
A
invisible
little little bit more subtle. I feel like that's fitting for what you both bring to So Colloquial, which you are the two. Okay, so you gotta explain this to me. Are you the founding members of So Colloquial? Because I went back and I found you put out something as the Swansons in 2016.
Yes.
Yep.
So, we started as the Swansons in 2016. That was our sophomore year, or like the spring of our sophomore year. We started writing a bunch of stuff. I mean, a lot of the music that we have now under So Colloquial was started as the Swansons, and then in 2018 we decided to go under a name change after a Tennessee band under the same name. It was more of a country band. And we were continuously tagged and posted out in Nashville, which is cool, but we decided to change the name.
And while we love Ron Swanson, we also just aren't fully ideologically aligned, with with the Swanson man.
I guess either peeling back some of the layers or just switching to a different layer. For clarity's sake, this is Evan Kogel and Kevin Carson of So Colloquial, who are known for their nom de plumes, their how you say stage names. Did that start somewhere? Because I know, Evan, you've got the back and forth with Justin Bifolka too.
Yup, yeah, that's the name game is an ongoing glorious Olympic that will never end. We can quite
seems
call
like
it at this point. Yeah,
it seems like kind of a general just a way of life in your corner of the Westchester scene, because all of you guys, I feel like, are constantly under different
Nonstop.
names.
yeah, definitely. It really it was kind of like me, Kevin, Cam, and Chris are like Ramsgate, our like 4 roommate crew. We would always like just come up with insanely goofy ass names, and like we had like a wall of like post-it notes in our apartment.
Notes with quotes and
Sherbert Alexis.
Sherbert Alexis. My favorite one that was what Cam did. Sour Brown.
Sour Brown's a good one.
That was my favorite one.
That's
a good grievance.
I just remembered this. Fun fact: Evan named my radio show. I think that was sophomore year. When did you graduate, Evan? Was that
the end of 2018?
Yeah, so that would have been as you were graduating. It was your parting grace was Jimmy Halibut's Powerfully Infallible Buffet.
Yeah, what was the name again? Because it was my utmost honor. Like it was absolutely gracious. It was
Jimmy Halibut's Powerfully Infallible Buffet, which I think we kind of peaked. I can't even remember what our name was the next year. That's how good it was. It was just like all over after
the buffet.
The dust cleared. So how did y'all get started? I mean, it's kind of, I mean, Evan, we met a few years ago, right? Like I don't even know when at this point, but we probably met through Gabe. I know I played a show at your apartment. I guess that would have been 2018, but you just kind of emerged, like you're just, I don't know. It's kind of hard to trace back exactly when we met, but how did you get involved with the scene? I mean, did you grew up around Westchester and kind of merged into it? I remember we were talking when the forum was starting. I came to you initially because I was like, Evan will know what to do. I'm trying to wrangle this big messy I want to use the word buffet again, but I feel like I can't.
Consciousness buffet
of a music scene into some sort of more coherent format, and Evan is the only one I know who's done that successfully in the past. But how did you both come onto the scene and get involved in playing music around here?
Oh, dude, yeah, thanks a ton. I appreciate you saying that first and foremost. But I've been involved in the scene since like I would say I was invited in my ninth grade year through some people. I was in the back of the band room. I was like in the percussion section, obviously, and a couple other people. This dude named Casey Homa and another dude, a good friend of mine, Joe Thomas. Also really good, both of them really good musicians. Joe Thomas especially a really good musician. They both invited me to a hardcore show, and so I started going to hardcore shows ninth grade, getting into that, loving it. Loved showing up and seeing like local bands and seeing my friends and stuff like that playing music. So I got involved heavily like early on in high school, and then formed a couple bands early, and like we had played some shows here and there. One with Joe's younger brother Eric, another one here and there, like throughout until me and Justin got together. Me, Justin, and our friend Mike formed Furnitures, and that's where things really took off for me. I would say in the underground, beyond me just going to shows, was when we came together and played as Furnitures rather. Some crazy, post-hardcore strangeness. We that's where I really started to get involved, and we got invited Furnitures when we were all graduating high school, and I was about to be going to Westchester. We got invited, and it's funny, it was Casey Homa again who was going to Westchester at the time. He invited us to play a show that he was booking with another dude named Matt Bacon over at Fens, which is ultimately, in my opinion, the greatest and most legendary Westchester venue there is.
All roads lead to Fens.
All roads lead to Fens, infallibly.
Coffee, music, everything.
Indelibly. And so like yeah, it's just once I came there and something felt I grew up in a really good scene, Doylestown, Lansdale scene, like Percy, Quakertown even. There's a good scene. It's a really good scene, really tight knit, awesome group of people that support the whole scene, that support local music really well. But when I came to Westchester, something really felt special and different. Felt really in the fold right away. Loved it. We were opening up for Rollin' Loaded. Shout out to Rollin' Loaded, Seraph and Travail, some other bands. It was awesome. And ever since then, I just stayed involved in the scene and always wanted to book shows of my own. So I did that at our apartment all the time through 91.7. Also, when we wanted to have it not be clean and all ages, like on the like alcohol front and whatnot, I would do it non-associated to 91.7 and just do it right there. And it was just great to have people over and like do it in the name of fun, do it in the name of music, and bringing everybody together. It was great. So I've always loved being a part of the scene. How about you, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't, get out into the Westchester scene until I was a freshman in college. So I'm from East Stroudsburg. When I was in high school, I mean, I played in a couple bands. Yeah, that really didn't start till like my sophomore year of high school. That's when I was playing like different punk bands, ska band at one point. But when I came here, I met Evan, freshman year because we lived on the same floor, and my roommate also, Bodan, under his project at the time, Bo and Airside had his stuff going on, but me, Evan, and Bodan started, writing acoustic stuff quite a bit. We had a couple performances on campus and whatnot. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, it really wasn't until coming here to Westchester, and then me and Evan, really did talk about forming like a two-piece band, seriously, our sophomore year. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Definitely shout out to Bodan too.
Yeah.
Bodan's instrumental in us
Yeah.
getting involved. Once students at Westchester, like we were the music that like we would write together acoustically, and the rain will save us all.
Yeah.
Like that was just great. It was great to do that and got us out there and got us heavily involved over and over again. So that was a big thing for us too. And I remember writing just in the dorm rooms and stuff like that. Just the magic of college stuff.
Yeah, I think this was the origin of the whole forum thing. Was there's so many things about Westchester and the college that seem to point towards a thriving, tight knit music scene, but at the same time, there's so many challenges that feel unique to the area of where do you even play? I mean, you talked about Fens being the legendary Westchester music venue, but what's next? Like Sprout closed and everything. And that's sort of why I came to you, Evan, when we were working on this stuff, because it was like, you were working to build that infrastructure back up, having shows at your apartment and stuff like that. What were some of the challenges in, I don't know, like the early acoustic stuff getting together? I mean, transitioning that into, you know, a band and getting stuff down and recorded. Because So Colloquial's been putting stuff out pretty consistently since like 2018. I mean, you had Watered Down as the Swansons in 2016.
Mm.
Um, and then you started sort of transitioning into the So Colloquial brand around 2018. Um, I guess how did Westchester impact, for better or worse, your identity as a duo and you know, your evolution as songwriters and performers?
Well, I guess to start, because you did mention the challenges, I think what was tough to start, like those first 2 years of school, um, you know, writing acoustically. Going from that, I really was not. I mean, personally, I prefer, um, you know, playing electrically and whatnot. So that was certainly an adjustment, not having like a drummer or anything. And you know, Evan and I did try, you know, try whatever we could to get into Swope to get him behind a kit and start playing. So I guess that was always a challenge, finding practice space. And finding set weekends to practice, whether it was going up to Evan's hometown of Percy or whatnot. But yeah, Westchester certainly made an impact. I think we've had a lot of people support us, you know, from the very beginning, and I think that's what's kept us going, you know, beyond being there and still playing in the area and recording a bunch. And yeah, I mean, we definitely credit it. You know, if it wasn't for, you know, being here at Westchester, there wouldn't be a So Colloquial.
Oh, without a doubt. I think that's a nail on the head right there. I think Westchester's influence is that without Westchester, without WCU and West Chetta, the Ched
The
itself,
Cheddar, yeah.
the Chetta, there would be I wouldn't know Kevin. Kevin wouldn't know me. This would not be a band. I think the nail on the head also with what Kevin was saying about like the practice space, because we wrote a lot of our songs, especially early on, jamming with our acoustic guitars in our dorm rooms, like Kevin writing riffs. And like just bouncing ideas and like going back and forth with stuff like that. Early on, I mean, we were just kind of like in the dorms, like where are we supposed to practice? My drum set's an hour away in Percy, and we started. Luckily, we had some music major friends who could occasionally smuggle us into Swope. So
Some breaking and entering.
so we got we got carried in coffins, and then like on the ninth hour, like
The laundry cart.
and woke up in the Swope. And obviously, I'm kidding around, but yeah, like we would practice in Swope, so we would jam out ideas we had and practice them out for shows and for whatever we were doing. I kind of did that. We would also go back home to my hometown sometimes, practice there. We still do that, and we also recorded that first John ever, the Watered Down you mentioned from the Swansons, and Never Around and some others. We recorded that in Kevin's living room.
Yeah, Never Around we don't discuss, but that's another. But no, we recorded Watered Down, the first, like the demo track under the Swansons in my basement. Yeah, Evan drove all the way up to East Stroudsburg, and we my old bandmate who played bass in the last band I was in up there did a lot. He did a lot of recording for us when I played with him. But he recorded us, and that took like an entire day, just getting the feel of playing, as a two-piece band when you're used to playing with two, maybe four people in a
that's rough
band. So
it
was certainly an adjustment, but that was like our first full-on take, and that was, I didn't even have the right sound, for me personally. Like the attack I had was there, but the overall sound, it was still a work in progress. So it took a little bit, but it was a lot of fun to do for the first time. That was like my first, under the Swansons, that was the first time I played in a band after, high school, and like recording something after high school. So that was certainly, yeah.
Yeah, and our move from the Swansons name to So Colloquial was kind of just like early on, it was a little bit of a goofy, like we liked the name, but it's kind of like a goofy, us just being our goofball selves, which we always contain. Like we will never not put out an album under some name, like, you mentioned them at the very beginning, Elaine, the Ron Johnson, etc. So like, we'll always, be goofing off. We'll always be Steven and Stefan Bruh. but like at the same time, we're like, okay, we're leaving Westchester now. Like we're graduating, and we're keeping this going. This is not just contained to dorm rooms. This is not just contained to our college experience shows. It's going beyond it. So we wanted a more serious name, wanted something we had more oomph behind. Still has a little bit of, a little bit of inside joke that's hard to explain behind it. But it's all around that kind of a thing. And so I would say Solemn Summer was our first, I would say, like, I love Short Sighted EP, but Solemn Summer, we really took the reins for ourselves and made it what we fully wanted it to be. It's interesting to go from those original Swansons demos and singles to now Solemn Summer being something that I spoke up a lot heavily on in production, and we both just spoke up a lot on it. Like, we want to record it live. We want to do it the way we do it.
And I think to Evan's point of like getting that music out of the dorm rooms was huge. And I think, the one song that really spoke to that was Myself, the first track off of Short Sighted. I wrote that riff my freshman year of college because I wanted to start a 2-piece band back home, but it never it didn't progress back home, but I had that riff always, and I always wanted to play that riff in a band because I just loved the groove of it. And I showed it to Evan, and he like wrote lyrics like almost immediately the way I had the song structured at the time. And it just, it was a song that I've had difficulty with, writing, but it kind of just turned into its own over the, since 2016, and just getting it on an actual record 2 years ago was huge.
Still to this day, top favorite of mine for sure.
So both that and the Solemn Summer. Oh, jeez. Sorry, I'm beat right now. I'm trying to.
You're good. Yeah, you didn't even notice.
Friday,
like sweeping my brain into a dustpan. I'm like trying to pour it into like a little Jello mold and get everything back together enough to ask some coherent questions. But it's
so coherent. That should be
so coherent.
So
yeah,
coherent.
So Colloquial, next album, so coherent.
So short-sighted, and I should just like talk like a radio announcer. Maybe that will lend me some credence. Short-sighted and Solemn Summer were both recorded at Sleepless Sound Studio in Germantown. How'd you get involved with them, and what was that process like? I guess going from your living room to a place with,
So it's pretty interesting. So I played at Sleepless Sound in a band practice. My old roommate, who has a project called The Exclusive, that's a Westchester project. You should definitely check them out, by the way.
Yeah, right.
We practiced at Sleepless Sound in like March, and because we had a show out in Ardmore, and then it wasn't until me and Evan played The Voltage. I think it was like around April or May of 2019, and we met the sound guy we met. Lucas told us about Sleepless Sound, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together till after the fact. Lucas, we met. He was the sound guy that night, and he that was one of the shows I felt like we really sounded phenomenal. Like, he knew how to kind of fill out the sound, for a 2-piece. Again, like, the sound was still a work in progress. So I was definitely impressed with the way he pulled us, had a sound at that show. So we linked up with Lucas we linked up with Lucas in August, and that's when we started Short Sighted. And
when it comes to sound and live production, we're talking about arguably subtle, minimal things, but like in the grand scheme of things, for 2 of us trying to make a big sound on a stage, it does make a world of difference when somebody understands your sound. And I think, like you were saying, Kev, like Lucas just understood the sound, and that was apparent in the way that he produced us live on stage, and appreciated what we were doing. Especially, it can be hard with me as the singer, like, while being the drummer, a lot of the sound techs will tend to think that it's about to be Kevin singing if we don't make it clear at first or make it abundantly clear, and then it's like, oh no, like, what's going on with the vocal mic, what's going on with the vocal mix, it's hard. And he just immediately was like on it and wanted us to go with him to his studio, and with us knowing that he understood, it was no brainer.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, random. Is that a Godspeed shirt?
Oh, it's Godspeed.
Very nice. Sorry, I just saw the top of it, and my brain was
One of the greatest bands of all time. Also one of the greatest concerts I've ever seen in my entire life.
I saw them in 2019 and had a panic attack and had to wait in the lobby
Oh
because
man,
I
I'm so
because
sorry.
I showed up and didn't know what I was getting into. Gabe took me. This was like right after I met Gabe, so it was probably earlier than that. Actually, it's probably 2018. I didn't know. I had never listened to them before, and Gabe brought me on. This was before I started listening to more experimental stuff, and I was still like a dad rock aficionado. And I showed up and was just like, I I I can't vibe. Now I love them. I'm hoping to see them next time they come around.
But it'd be hard to find yourself, yeah, if you're not expecting some like formless, like well, not formless, but like very long form, classical style, like post.
Very formed. It was like it's like what Philip Glass said about his music, like music with repetitive structures. That's sort of what it feels like to me, where it's just keeps building on structures, and it's like fractals almost.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So it can be hard, yeah, when your normal structure is melting before you, and it's like, all right, like, but yeah, raise your skinny fists like antennas.
How did your I hesitate to ask questions about influences because I feel like influences can be there are things that I think have influenced me that I wouldn't consider myself a big conscious fan of. Like if you asked me to list my favorite of things, it wouldn't nearly align with the things that have influenced me the most. But I guess what sounds and experiences do you think uh, affected your songwriting and your sound when it came to So Colloquial the most? I don't know if you can distill that down to a, a short list, but like I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thought exercise.
Yeah, love that question. You want to
Yeah,
start us off?
I think just because of the way I need to make my guitar sound, I think Royal Blood was definitely a big influence. That wasn't until later on in this project. When I first listened to Royal Blood, like in 2017, I didn't realize that was a two-piece band. Um, I had no idea because they were just on my Spotify, so I was actually like, "Wow, who is this band?" But learning after the fact, it's a bass player and a drummer. They were definitely a big impact. Like old Black Keys, like Rubber Factory era Black Keys, has certainly uh, played an impact. I love that. That's like one of my favorite Black Keys albums. Trying to think what else.
Really things in general that
Yeah.
particularly blended like pop and raw rock and
Mm-hmm.
roll to keep the catchiness, to
Mm-hmm.
keep the accessibility of something that was melodically in
Mm-hmm.
tune and attuned to what we want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
while also keeping the rawness of like some garage band two
Mm-hmm.
piece, three piece kind of a situation. We're talking
Yeah.
Japan Droids, we're talking Blood
Yeah.
Red Shoes, we're talking
Blood Red Shoes is great.
yeah, Planet
Yeah.
Shoes rules. Kevin showed me them, and like when he's talking Royal Blood, we're talking the reversal of like
Yeah.
it's a bassist sounding like a
Mm-hmm.
guitarist, and then he's a guitarist that sounds like there's a bass
Mm-hmm.
with him and embedded in the sound, which is hard to pull off. An interesting sound. We also love a lot of grunge and post grunge,
Oh yeah.
particularly just grunge and like Nirvana's a big one, Stone Temple Pilots,
Alice in Chains,
Alice in Chains.
definitely big influence
So
there.
we can see some heavy influences from that, especially on our sound in particular. But we also listen to everything. Like me, like we both love like everything from like jazz, hip hop, soul, R&B, all the way up to like punk and metal, hardcore. Like Godspeed. Like I love everything, and I have a particularly alternative, experimental tastes. You know, in all of the genres I listen to, and so I'm also liking bringing in a lot of stuff that was emo scene at the time, and that kind of a deal. A lot of heroes I had in the local underground scene that really influenced, even though we always we are who we are. I feel like we're like a boiling pot. I feel like we it's hard to like we have a lot of genres coming in on us.
I think there's something you mentioned a lot of duos. I feel like that it's almost becomes like a scientific endeavor when you get it stripped down to that few moving parts where it's like how do we do the most with just two people and four hands and 4 feet, two heads. Like I think you mentioned like Blood Red Shoes. I saw them live and you're right. Like you've got to kind of do double time. Their drummer sings too, and like um, the guitarist is awesome. They opened for the Fratellis when I saw them, and I'd never heard
Oh
of them
man, that was
before,
a nice show.
and they completely outplayed the Fratellis. I felt really bad for them because they came out afterwards and it was like, no, dude, I already saw my show. Like, but I guess it feels like there's something about that limitation that ends up driving people towards more creative solutions. Like I was thinking specifically of Lightning Bolt when you're talking about that, and like how that's just two guys, and you've got, you know, that's how Brian Gibson ended up with like banjo strings on his bass, and like, you know, all this stuff, just trying to cover all the bases at once. I guess the flip side of that, do you ever get frustrated or feel limited by, I mean, the things you, I guess just the practical limitations of being a duo when it comes to a song that you do that you might want to make more, you know, layered or lush, or, you know,
I
diverse and
certainly do. I think after recording Solemn Summer, I think that kind of I felt that way quite a bit, especially because you did talk about before we started recording, you know, playing bass on the record, and I loved what I did on bass. You know, I especially with Solemn Summer because I felt like the way I had the bass set down, I got a real good feel of the tracks, like, you know, never before. Especially like, you know, like songs like Bum Beat and End Out. Like I felt like the bass that I did on that kind of elevated the song more than it did like when we first started playing it live, like right before the pandemic hit. Um, it'd be nice to have that layer in there live, and I think it'd give me more flexibility to do more lead guitar work. I've always considered myself more of a lead guitarist. I mean, um, that was always me through, you know, high school and whatnot. So this duo was definitely a challenge in that way. And like Evan mentioned before, like having my guitar sound like a bass, and the way that sound has evolved like the last 3 years. I mean, I now have a 2 amp setup. I have my full pedal board. The top row of my pedal board goes right to my guitar. And then the bottom part of it goes to a bass amp, and then I have an octave pedal running through that bass amp to fill out the sound, and that um, it's taken a lot of time and money. I think more money than anything, just to get to that sound.
but that's what I was talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
and
creative
I think
solutions.
that's definitely, you know, I'm trying to get more creative and how can I add more guitar solos in songs? How can I, you know, definitely trying to get more loop pedal type feel like into the sound, um, and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely want to have some layers that we had on the recording that we could definitely translate to live. That would be nice to have. And I think, you know, because it's just two of us, we're very limited at
Yeah,
times.
and the Mons, he's not lying. The Mons lead is buttery smooth, mate. It's very good stuff. I would definitely say, like we're both very, very well rounded, but we each have our own strengths, and I feel like your top strength is the lead. Like your lead work is crazy, and that's we talked about, like, it'd be nice to have a bass like with us instead of having to filter it, and figure it out with the sound and the dial-ins. And it'd be nice to have another guitar layering like you guys were just talking about. For me, singing and drumming at the same time. I've been drumming since I was 5 years old. It's been a long time, and I've been singing maybe even before then, just because never classically, never like officially professionally trained in singing other than like chorus and choir stuff. But never one-on-one vocal lessons. But with drums, that had been going on, my entire life was one-on-one lessons. And so drumming and singing together kind of became second nature, and I can do them well automatically at the same time. But at the same time, it's there are certainly some drum beats, a whole plethora of drum beats and signatures and just meters in general that I could be entering into, and patterns and grooves that we could do if I wasn't singing at the same time. And I mean, like, I still do some strange beats and some fast beats and some involved stuff while singing, without a doubt, just because, like I said, it does feel I can put one on autopilot and just go for it. But there are certainly some things I could do if I wasn't the drummer and the singer, on the drums in particular. I would definitely say that's the case. But the positive, to flip it back again into the positive again, I would say that singing and drumming at the same time makes me feel alive more in both. Drumming brings my vocals to life live, and I think seeing us live is definitely something that would touch more on what we're talking about here versus the studio recordings. It brings my vocals to life more to have my energy of in the drums involved with it. Lets me loose on some of the lines to really like let something rip, let something belt out, kind of a deal. Same thing, vice versa with the vocals towards the drums. Can make me, the vocals can keep me smoothed and mellowed into the drum groove itself. And let things go automatically. So there's benefits and drawbacks to the two piece. So first and foremost, one of the most important being that we just get to do what we want to do. It's me and Kevin. It's me and Kevin, in every aspect of what we're writing. Some other ideas would be cool and everything, but ultimately we get a pretty clean idea of what we want to be, what we want to sound like, because it's just us two. But plenty of drawbacks as well.
Yeah, and I think like the one benefit though that I wanted to mention before, like me and Evan definitely have a feel of like what we want to do. And I think selfishly, I think if we did add a third person in there, I'm not, I wouldn't rule out ever adding a third person in, but like we know how to like, how we want our songs structured and how we want them to sound. Like just like the way we just recorded that last EP last year in the studio, that was, that was definitely an experience. We were able to get really creative with it. And I think definitely it's a personality thing.
Yeah, I think there's a certain type of relationship you foster when you have collaborated with somebody for a long enough period of time, and it's kind of a rare thing to get it to a point where you don't hate each other, and you're just kind of speaking the same language. Going back to the drumming and singing at the same time thing, there's some of the best parts on Solemn Summer are like when you just like let it fall back into just drum, bass, and guitar, and you just like rip these these lead lines. I mean, both of you thinking specifically of like moving parts. There are just some great moments in that track where you both are just going off.
It's a go off song.
Yeah.
We love that one live. Personal favorite.
Yeah, you should see us live. That was the last time we played. I think I was like so fired up by the end of it.
So Solemn Summer, for those of you listening who don't know, came out in 2020, in September of 2020. So how much of that stuff did you have going in shows before the pandemic and everything? Is there any of it that you haven't gotten to play yet? And are you looking to do shows soon and sort of get some of that stuff out there?
I guess to start, we played everything on that EP before the pandemic. The last show we played, which was February 2020, we did debut both Bum Beat and Out. Those were the two tracks we just debuted, and that was definitely an exciting show to get that at. That was a packed show at Fens. But we're excited to definitely play more. We do have two back-to-back shows in August, the 6th and the 7th. We're going to have our first show in over a year at the Rusty Nail in Ardmore, and then be coming on home to Fens on Saturday the 7th.
That's awesome. I think we might be playing around then. I'm not sure. Sometime in August. We're going to be at Fens too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Playing the same show. That would be fun.
Yo, that would be awesome. And honestly, if you want to hop on one of those shows, we could get you on the bill with us.
That's sick.
Another band, awesome. Another band slot or two on the August 6th one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the 2-person thing, I think you really got to kind of, I don't know, build up your sound. It got me thinking about Fens, and I don't want to talk about this. I talked about this during the last episode too, because it's just stuck in my memory as like my low point, my Joseph Campbell's Heroic Circle, like basement dwelling episode was when was boiled down to 2 people, and we were trying to play four persons worth of sound in 2 people's worth of instruments, and it just wasn't working. But I don't know. There's a specific kind of sound you get that's very cutting, and I don't know. It reduces it to very few parts. Was that sort of a higher pressure? I don't know if you've had other recording experiences in groups with more members, but was it sort of a higher pressure environment when you've got so few just tracks going at the same time to get everything perfect. I mean, like you sort of have less wiggle room when you're one of three, tracks going at the same time instead of one of 10. Did that come through in any of the recording experiences?
I would say, yeah. I say there's a couple things that come with the duo experience with recording is that we can go through pretty quickly. We can save ourselves a lot of time, a lot of money. We can tend to be, like one or two take Johnnies, Jimmy Jimbles. But like um, at the same time as going quicker, it is just like you were saying, like you're definitely more isolated in the mix, knowing, okay, those are my like goddamn drums. Those are my goddamn vocals. Or for Kevin, like that's my fucking guitar work. Like that's the bass work. It's very very crystal clear. You can hear. It's not in a fold. It doesn't have to be picked out. It's kind of like clear as day, pretty distinguishable. So I think that is one thing that makes things more self-critical, both in a good way and in a bad way. It can make things, on the record better. It can also make things, in some ways, more overly self-analyzed and contained. And I think that was a symptom on Short-Sighted. I would say. I think that was like was that our first album with a professional studio? Yeah. So Short-Sighted was our first time with a professional studio with Lucas. And a Sleepless Sound, and that like it was great, and I love that EP. And Myself is on there, which is a favorite of mine still to this day. But I do think that we did it a whole lot better on Solemn Summer when we came in ready to say, okay, we're gonna do it live. We're gonna do it the way we want it. I spoke up a whole lot on the production to make sure that it was the way that we wanted it to sound, and like I don't know, being able to shape the sound, sculpt it the way we want it was a huge one. And having just two voices in that mix and that decision-making process, I also think is a benefit.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of pressure, like Evan said, going into the first EP, definitely. Like similar to what Evan said, like I enjoyed the way, that first EP sounded, but I was certainly more critical on the next the Solemn Summer EP. I think because when you record live, it's the most honest recording you could have because it's everything all at once, and you hear yourself and you see how everything corresponds to one another. I mean, every track you hear on the EP was recorded live, and that was the foundational track, and then everything else was added in, the vocals, the bass, everything else. So I felt the pressure a little bit on Solemn Summer, given we were in the pandemic. Me and Evan barely played through the pandemic, because we're stuck inside. But, there was certainly a pressure, but I felt like it got better as the day went on. I mean, that was like a 12-hour day recording tracks and making sure they were sounding right and setting up.
And you sort of get diminishing returns there too. I mean,
what was that?
You sort of get diminishing returns there too. I mean, I get burned out in a lot less than 12 hours. So.
Yeah, I think.
Can we talk about that moment for just 1 second? Like you just talking about diminishing returns, and he goes like, "What's that? What the did you just say?"
That's funny.
Yeah.
But no, no, there were certainly diminishing. I mean, Moving Parts was definitely one of the toughest tracks to record, I think, because I'm playing my solo on the spot. I think I'm used to laying down a rhythm track and then overdubbing the solo so I can get it to the best way possible. But that was a tough recording, and especially at the end, the way the rhythm changes at the end with Evan's drums, that was a new piece to it all. But yeah, no, it was certainly an experience this last go around.
I just watched a movie called Heartworn Highways, which is about like the beginning of the outlaw country movement, like Townes Van Zandt and Steve Earle and those guys. And it opens on a, in the big wooden recording studio, and they're running tape and everybody's playing everything at once. And I'm like, I would not survive a day here. Like, they were just so on. And then I was like, wait, I guess people are still doing that. I'm just the only one who's, in my little hobbit hole on his 250th take of, X guitar solo. I guess that helps keep you grounded to your live stuff too. I mean, like the fact that you can't get too far away from your, original, you know, structure of
Mhm.
two people, two people's worth of parts, um, limited by studio time and stuff like that. Um, what's next? I guess that's the last thing I have for y'all. I mean, you got your shows coming up. You're coasting off of the success of uh, Solemn Summer. What do you have planned for down the road?
Step one is keep kicking ass. Step two,
When you're done with that,
can I get off?
You just kind of getting back to normal life, I think. Like most people.
I love the disparity between step one and two.
Step one, keep
Yeah.
kicking ass.
No, well,
Number two, reassociate.
Right.
Reintegrate back into
just be easy on
societal.
yourself and just be patient. After there's no longer any ass left to kick.
yeah.
You're right.
But no, but definitely, we practiced for the first time last week, and that was it took a while to get warmed up. I'll say
Humbling.
that. I mean, it just because the last time we fully played was recording Solemn Summer, like with a set and everything. We've written a lot of stuff acoustically. Definitely want to get a lot of that written material acoustically into an electric sound. We've been talking about getting back, recording a sleepless sound. We're comfortable there. We record with someone we think knows our sound best. It definitely accepts our input there. So we definitely hope to have something in the works towards the end of summer.
And is well meshed into like the underground scene in general, into our local music scene. Just knows it, is a part of it, and that's really important on the whole there. So we'll be going back to him. We'll be taking one of the byproducts of the quarantine. So like Kev said, we had to shake that rust off in our first jam in a long time, because we hadn't been, we didn't get to jam like in a contained room like that in a long time. But we did write some acoustic stuff like when we could, and so we're thinking about doing one acoustic EP and then another one plugged in. Acoustic would obviously be its own contained acoustic songs. I would say very grungy, with some emo influence, with some disharmonic folk kind of influence, etc. But then the plugged in right back to our normal, usual kicked up style, the usual sound, and get kind of the best of both worlds there. So we'll be heading back in with that without a doubt. And we're also just, we're trying to reintegrate, trying to, just get back in and feel normal again a little bit. And like the shows coming up are helping with that. I've been feeling weird, socially. I've been feeling weird, confidence-wise. I've been feeling weird on so many fronts. From mental, emotional, physical onward to now just reapproach things and let music be the guide that it is, always has been, and always will be.
Yeah, since I changed my name to Stephen Bruh, it's been really a difficult experience. So
it's. I don't know if the world's ready. We all come out of our little boxes. It's like braces, going to work every day or going to interacting with your local greengrocer. It keeps you keeps you on the straight and narrow. Everybody just went in their houses for a year and a half and come out, and we're all crooked teeth and they're all facing different ways. And when they come in contact with Stephen Bruh, I just don't know if it's going to end well.
You don't know. Can the world handle Stephen Bruh, Stephen Bruh, Stephen Phillips?
We'll answer that question next time on the Horn. But in the meantime, thank you both so much for sitting down and talking with me.
It's been an honor.
I hope it hasn't been a solemn summer for you too. It sounds like you got some great stuff coming down the line. I'm very excited to see y'all play in August. And for everyone who has not checked out So Colloquial's illustrious catalog, where can they find you?
We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Music. We are on Bandcamp. Always and forever. We will always be on Bandcamp.
We're on YouTube.
We're on YouTube as well. Yeah, I forgot about YouTubely, the tube of the U's. And anything else? We make CDs and we sell those at shows. Yeah, sometimes for free, sometimes for $5.
If you want updated, news on us, follow us on Instagram. Just _colloquial. We post quite a bit. definitely gonna have more details to our shows in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned.
Hell yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope to catch you on the next episode. And again, thanks, Kevin. I don't have a sign off, a cool, snappy sign off thing yet. Would you like to contribute?
Let's do one. We'll do one live for you. We'll do it
All right.
live. But I just want to say before we do our outro for you, it's been awesome. Thanks for having us on the show. You're the man. You're the homie. And I appreciate you asking us these questions and being cool and nice with us and thinking that we're cool enough to have us on the show. We heavily appreciate that, and appreciate you. Appreciate all of it. So all right, what should we do? Sure. So I can beatbox for you. We can scat. I can do, you can lay down a track for me or bass line for me or whatever.
Just grab the guitar here.
Yeah, you got my acoustic
wow.
guitar.
An exclusive performance.
Oh my heavens.
We could do a track real quick.
We'll just do like a quick just outro of what's the I'll just do I'll do some random, very bluesy nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Could live forever in this moment with you two.